Why, hello there. Hello, and welcome to something a little different. The decade has come and gone, and with it, a lot of progress, art-wise, I guess. I hope. I'm pretty sure. I think. But I thought it would be a fun thing to do to take a look back at the entire decade worth of progress, especially since the earliest memories I have of art is exactly around a decade ago. I am dreading this a little bit. I had to dig a lot of these up from the very early pages of my DeviantArt because I think that's where most of my art journey began. I haven't looked at these in so long. There is a reason why I never deleted any of these, because I want to remember where I began and compare them to where I am now. The decade begins at 2010, but my earliest memories of my art journey began at 2008 to 2009, so I'll quickly go over those very quickly because I don't want to stay there. And oh, God. We all had our beginnings. I first began drawing when I was a little kid, but the first time I got to scan my drawings was around high school, exactly around the time I started liking Naruto. And I honestly don't remember how I scanned this. I don't know where my chibi style came from at this moment. Maybe it also came from Naruto. This piece with Shikamaru was actually copied straight from reference. I am very much aware that this is not my level of skill back then. I clearly remember copying this from somewhere. I don't remember. I mean, there's no way I could draw this good at this time, because one of the pieces I was so proud of around this time as well was this piece of Sakura from Naruto Shippuden. And oh my god, look at this. I remember being so proud of this piece because in my mind it was a complicated pose. The viewer is facing her back, but her posture is like, and I don't know, I guess the detailing, it depends with every artist, but with my experience, hands were the most difficult to really master. And I was so proud of how I got the kunai, her kunais in her fingers, which is great. I don't know why, but I have a memory of continuing the coloring for this inside an internet cafe. I obviously have no idea what to do with my old pencil colors because I was just basically coloring as I go. I have no idea what technique to use. I just know that I see the thing and I have to color the thing with the color. So no directions whatsoever. Evidently, I was a very big fan of Death Note. This picture of Misa Amane was not based on the anime itself, but on a cosplayer named Elodia Gosenfiao, whose picture I found on a newspaper article that was given to me by my mom. I think I felt really proud, probably, because I don't know if I can even find that picture of Elodia. And at the time, I was really getting into cosplay as well. There were lots of details on her costume that I didn't realize were there until I started drawing. I don't remember much of what the original piece looked like, so I'll just maybe find a comparison and hope for the best. And you be the judge, I guess. Oh my god. Okay, this is, I know this is your typical chibi with a chibi face, but number one, L is so out of character in this. Number two, so many things I had to unlearn over the past few years. One of them was the typical anime faces, including the closed eyes and because people don't actually do that unless they're anime characters, not cartoon characters, anime characters. Oh my god. The Konoha Sandcastle tournament. Okay, here's the story. So in my head, this was basically a tournament based in Konoha, in the world of Naruto, and it's a girls versus boys competition. And the girls are winning with the help of Gaara, while the boys aren't doing shit. And I forgot the reason why Gaara was with the girls, but I guess he decided to team up with the girls because they were doing things much better than the boys were. I don't know. I can't read what they're saying. Speaking of more Naruto, I learned how to use MS Paint for the first time, and I guess this counts as my first real digital art. I learned how to use MS Paint through the power of YouTube. Look at that pointy chin. Then here's my second attempt with that usual back pose. That impossible spine pose. I learned how to do gradients in MS Paint. A stupid anime face. Oh my god. Oh, and last but not the least, this old drawing of me and my best friends at the time. It's that stupid face again. Why did I do this? I remember really being into asymmetrical clothing, which is why I designed my clothes like this. One sleeve being longer than the other. Even my pants were. So many wrong things. A few months ago, I tried redrawing it again. Well, just the piece with me. And here it is. You'll be the judge again of how much I improved. I think I made the updated version around October. I think. Also, I'm sorry about my voice. Again, that should do it for 2008 to 2009. But I guess, in a way, to summarize the beginning of my art journey, I've had a lot of inspiration from Masashi Kishimoto, which is the creator of Naruto. Moving to 2010. 2010 was when I had my first real sketchbook that was like this big and this thick. Now that I look back at that period, I realize that my sense of anatomy really varied with how big my canvas was. Because for the entire period of 2010, I could only find 3 pieces. 2 of these pieces, you can see a really big similarity. I don't know why it was like that, but I think it was because I had a bigger canvas that it was hard to keep track of the balance between the head. But compared to another piece that I think I made in 2010, which is this, it's supposed to be a drawing of me and my friend as a leprechaun and a hatter. The proportions are not as extreme as the one in full sketchbook, because this picture I remember was only like it was tiny basically. I also started liking really detailed pieces because I started appreciating indie comics in places such as smackjeeves.com. That also includes DeviantArt. Speaking of which, that is 2010. Oh, 2011. Okay, 2011. It was around 2011 when I made my second DeviantArt account because I completely forgot what the password was for my first account was. My very first post in DeviantArt was this, and I never even really got to scan it. Okay, the reason why, okay, I know it doesn't look as bad as what I made around 2008 to 2009, but I remember being so proud of this drawing, and I didn't even realize that she has 6 fingers. Other than that, I was starting to get a little bit more of a grasp with some basic rules of anatomy. I liked experimenting a lot with pencil colors and line weight. Shading wise, I think I started to learn I didn't learn it. I started to understand the dynamics of shading pencils, but anatomy wise, I understood that I have so much work to do. This is also when I started really wanting to make more finished pieces and not just incomplete things. I don't remember what this piece was about, but it's basically a girl writing something with lots of ribbons, and I started experimenting with line weight. I think I was inspired a lot by, I forgot what it was called, but it was a vampire, just saying it out loud. It was a vampire manga that I used to read before. The main character's name was Yuki, I think. And I got really inspired by that. And also, these 2 books were also some of my main inspirations. They were gifted to me by I forgot who gave these to me. But yeah, this is Ghost Hunt and Threads of Time. Chibi-wise, however, I realized that I was improving at it, but it wasn't as dimensionless, shapeless as before, because I was improving in the chibi department. In a way, I was slowly improving it with the normal anatomy department as well, especially because of DeviantArt. The community at DeviantArt was really helpful at that time. I don't have super specific memories of the community itself, but it's thanks to them that I learned how to learn to practice more on achieving details, trying to figure out anatomy again. By the way, I am not educated. I am self-taught. Here is the Choco Brat. This was also around the first year of college. I remember I made this for a little contest in DeviantArt. I was really, really into laces back then, little details. And I was so proud of this. I'm still proud of this until now. This piece is called Muted Rage, and it's a fan art piece of one of my favorite indie comics called, oh shoot, I forgot what it's called. Ever After by Endling or Sean Healy. I forgot the site where I found it, but I loved the comics so much. I just had to make this. If you're wondering why the coloring looks like this, it's because it's colored by a red ballpoint pen. The rest is pencils. I gotta say, until now, I'm very, very proud of this. I didn't use any references except for, the character reference for her. And I don't know why. I am not proud of this logo, though. This logo is so chaotic. No, I can't read that. No. Also, another useless thing I learned, again, using MS Paint, but replacing things in MS Paint, I don't know why. I forgot why I learned that. 2011 just really inspired me to try making comics, and I gotta say I'm impressed by just these two pages that I found. I didn't study how to make comics. It was just me figuring out if the panels felt right. I was going by instinct. So looking back, I can definitely say to my 2011 self that this was actually really, really good paneling. I mean, it could be a little bit fixed, but yeah. And then, oh god, and this was a fan art. This was supposed to be fan art of Lady Gaga's You and I music video. I think it was at this point I realized that my mindset with drawing is too ingrained with anime. So if I'm correct, this is exactly the time when I wanted to unlearn what I learned with anime. I still loved anime, of course, but I wanted to, keep going. It didn't happen immediately because I still loved anime and cartoons. But I think that's when the seed was planted that I have to explore sooner or later. Well, hello there. Focus. 2012 was the year where I really, really went into DeviantArt and also started falling in love with colors. I remember 2012 as the year where I started having open requests for other people to leave their OCs, their original characters, to be drawn by me. I had so much fun. This was the year when I started really, really becoming more comfortable with coloring and drawing chibis, because I'm not sure why, but drawing chibis felt so natural at the time, and along with learning how color dynamics worked, realizing that not every color is just one color, if that makes sense. I guess I was just really, really proud of being able to do so much for other DeviantArt creators. What else? Oh, I remember this. This was a commission I did for a friend in college. He liked what I did back then, I guess, and he had these commissioned for his friends. That was such a long time ago. My god. Also, now that I look back at these, I realized that I really loved the shining effect of coloring hair and stuff. But I took inspiration from Axis Powers Italia, the creator Hideka's Himaruya, which you can see in some of the hair. I was a fan of Big Bang. This was the same original character I drew around 2008, thankfully with only 5 fingers this time. And I remember that this was the first time I used GIMP. I never had Photoshop until very, very recently, actually. Yeah, I settled for mixing traditional media with digital, and it's so bad. It's so bad. Graphic artist tip: never make your text hard to read on the first view. Fan art wise, I think I was starting to get a better grasp at anatomy. This is an old fan art of Yoko Lutner from Gurren Lagann, and even though some parts are still kind of wonky, I'm actually actually pretty proud of this. With the skill I had back then, I'm kinda surprised by how I managed this. Well, human anatomy, I got it going on, but male anatomy, I realize I still have a lot of work to do. Oh yeah, and I think this is when I started really liking gore. Gore warning, gore warning. I found this manga called Dead Man Wonderland. I don't remember how I did, but I found it and I loved it, and I think it was the first real manga I felt the need to make fan art of. And this was a birthday present to my best friend. I'm not sure why I drew this, but I did. So there you go. The sun from my window is gone. Gone. So much for the dramatic lighting from my back. Oh well. 2013. Oh yeah, 2013 is when I really started delving in digital art. I think this was the first time I learned how to use either both GIMP and Paint Tool Sai. Again, for some reason, the first piece I posted on DeviantArt that year was this little thing titled Shinyan Kwaile around Chinese New Year. And then put a flower on your hair, in your hair, I forgot. This was another OC drawing. My laptop back then used to be a flip laptop thing, so I remember drawing this even while in school, so I got in some trouble for it. I guess I was starting to develop a little bit more of a style, I forgot, but the effects I used in GIMP could have been better. And I'm still using this old font. I really don't remember why I liked it so much. Oh, and I didn't own a tablet at that time. I just had the stylus of the laptop itself. Oh yeah, and it was around this time that the author or the artist, I forgot, of Dead Man Wonderland finally came back and continued the manga. So I was really excited and drew this fan art. I'm pretty sure this really was done with Paint Tool Sai, I think, and the blood spots in the background from GIMP. Very nice. My very first sketch dump. These were just a bunch of sketches that I knew weren't going to do anything really. In the top left, you have human versions of My Little Pony. Here you got another original character. You have Alfred, and then another Alfred, and another sketch of Dead Man Wonderland. Another OC, other people's OCs, another one of mine OC. I really am actually proud of this one. Merida, I forgot that I drew Merida. And then another original character. Forgot about this. I drew Gravity Falls. Two more original characters, Applejack and Twilight Sparkle. Beginning sketch of Shiro. And this is a fan art of Todd Allison and Petunia Violet. It was another Smack Jeeves indie comic. And this sketch is Vanellope von Schweetz, and it was one of the first things I've ever posted on Tumblr. I started Tumblr around 2013, and this thing, it's funny that I have no sense of backgrounds whatsoever, so I just relied on brushes, these pretty little corner things. Ooh, and yeah, I was super proud of this. I drew this after Hetalia released an episode, Flashback of Italy, being really wild. This was a gift from my friend. This was for school. And this was another fan art, more fan art, relying a lot on effects. Oh my god, I loved this so much. This is one of the simplest things I've ever done, but I don't know why, but I really loved this one so much because I was really aiming to get the likeness of Hiccup and Toothless, and I got it, and I loved it. I was so proud of myself. This was somebody else's character. Overall, this year was where I started really beginning with digital art and finding a sense of coloring. Chibi-wise, I got a little bit more confident with poses and line weight. Ooh, I remember this. It's called Happy Halloween, fan art of America. Alfred from Access Power Italia. It's a really simple piece. I liked how it looked with just the line art, so I made it innocent and intimidating. I don't remember why I drew Dave from Homestuck, even though I wasn't a fan of Homestuck. I guess I really liked his character design. That's why I liked drawing him. But I swear it's only these two pieces. And here's one traditional piece of Rainbow Dash. Forgot what I used to... Oh, I used Copic markers for this. My mom gave these to me as a present. That concludes 2012. I mean 2014. Okay. 2014. 2014. 2014. 2014. 2014. 2014. Oof. Okay, a lot of things to unpack. 2014 was the year when I started liking live shows. I drifted away from cartoons and anime, and I shifted over to shows like Sherlock. The first drawing of the year was fan art of John and Sherlock. It's called Happy Birthday. There was an entire storyline I made up for this, where they get cake all over themselves and they just laugh it out. And it's so anime. I don't know why I feel so disappointed by this. I mean, I love that. I like the composition that is just blank white. But 2014 was also the year I made this project called, and I wish it had a better name, Humanized Greek Gods, I think. It was a project school paper group where basically every Greek god was given a job, a human job. Hermes was a messenger, Athena was a professor, Dionysus was a guidance counselor, Aphrodite was a dancer, Hera was a drama major, I think. No. I forgot. Ares was a summer in camp storyline, and Apollo was a bipolar doctor. I forgot. While in the camp setting, Poseidon was the one who manned the lakes. Hades was just Hades. And Zeus was supposed to be a principal of some sort. The reason why all of them were shaped as a square was because it was supposed to be in a Polaroid. Don't be fooled by all the backgrounds. A lot of them were just from DeviantArt and from Google. Except for Hermes. This was also the year when I really wanted to get portraits right. So this piece with Prince Gumball, I wanted to get thinner line weights. So you can see that Prince Gumball and this other person's OC. Traditionally, I was still dependent on pencil coloring, but I really got into more symbolic art. This little piece was supposed to be for a poem, but it ended up becoming sort of an original character. I named her Hannah, or Flower. I don't know. I just really like this character. Oh, this was the first time I tried drawing the Avengers, and it sucks. Oh god, no. Oh god, it's so bad, it's so bad. Here are some little sketches, doodles I did while waiting in class. Again, I'm only self-taught, so I learned all these while looking at some of my classmates that were just sitting around waiting for the next teacher. Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember being so incredibly proud of this piece. Even though now that I look at it, it's so lacking in texture, but I was so proud of this. For context, this is a piece from Adventure Time, and I based it on a certain set of outfits that wasn't used in a cartoon, but was drawn by the creators of the cartoon. And I was so proud of this because, well, one, I got a clever title. The title is What's Up? And two, it was the first time I felt like I finally understood anatomy, especially men's anatomy. And I felt so proud of my coloring as well. I felt like I understood how color and shading worked. Looking back at it now, so much could be better, anatomy-wise and coloring-wise, but an achievement is an achievement. I'll give that to my 2014 me. This piece called The Music They Make, it was for a school project that didn't even have to be this complicated, but I made it complicated. Oh my god, I can't believe I still have these. I called these little things Doodle Lock. I discovered Sherlock way late, when it was around season 3. Most of my fan art spanned from that. These were little doodles I made on my yellow pad paper while in college. Still a lot of anime and cartoonish influences on it. Sherlock, despite its reputation, it really was the first series that inspired me to try drawing more realistically, or at least semi-realistically, so I made this little challenge. Also, 2014 was the year when I went to the magical land of Tumblr. The community in Tumblr and DeviantArt is a lot different. Tumblr was more focused on fans. Tumblr felt more tight-knit, especially with fan communities. That's why this little sketch came out of the color palette challenge for Sherlock. Also, this was the exact year I found Hannibal. Oh man, it was the start of a good year. So this was my first fan art of Hannibal. Oh god. Overall, 2014 into 2015 can be summarized into just that transitional phase of unlearning a lot of the things I learned from anime and learning new things, learning new, more realistic things. But of course, I'm still balancing my newfound love for real live shows, and of course, drawing anime-inspired stuff, other people's characters again, and so on and so forth. I started making sketch commissions around this time as well, and because of Hannibal, I started delving more into symbolic art, which I loved. Played around with color, played around with symbology, played around with style. This is when I figured out the chibi style that I really liked. Chibi style. I was in tiny chibi. I have my tall chibi and the tiny chibi. It was around 2015 that I had my first job as a call center agent, and let's just say that it didn't turn out well. But it was thanks to Hannibal fan community that I felt like I got through that phase of my life. Oh, also, it was around the end of 2015 that I really delved into my love for comics, and I made this really short comic called Horns, which is up on Tapastic, I think. I'm sure it's still on Webtoons, but I made this very short comic for a Webtoons challenge, which of course I failed because I was extremely proud of this comic up until now. I see a lot of things that could be improved from it. It's available to read either in both Webtoons or Tapastic, whatever you choose. But it's basically a black and white-ish comic about two opposing sides of morality in just one little short comic. 2016, I was still very much diving in the Hannibal community. Around February, I drew this little set called Part of Your World, which is a mermaid AU on Hannibal, which spawned from one of my little doodles from late 2015, and then later led to probably the longest comic I've ever. I got caught off so many times I forgot what I was going to say, but basically I made this little fan art set, A Little Mermaid alternate universe for Hannibal, which then later on spawned to the longest comic I think I've ever made, which I've also recently had to put a pause on because you can find the reasons on my Patreon. In April of 2016, I opened Hannibal requests because it was the anniversary of Hannibal, so 32 requests in 1 month. Oh boy. And then around May of 2016, finally started my Patreon. The first few months of Patreon were one of the best. Thanks to my patrons back then, I did fan art of Game of Thrones, Captain America Civil War, some very quick fan art of Alice in Wonderland, the movie, The Path, more Hannibal, Assassin's Creed, and other things. I redid the Halloween fan art of Alfred, and for the entire month of October, I decided to mix Inktober and Goretober together with the theme of Hannibal. So please look away if you're very sensitive to gore, but I made all of these gore drawings. They're very simple drawings, but it could potentially trigger people. It has blood, it has some body disfigurement. It was based on the 30 prompts for Goretober, just in the style of Inktober. So yeah, a lot of blood, and that's it. I made some commissions. I did fan art for Doctor Strange, I think, some YouTube stuff, and then I made a little original character that would later on means something else as well. It's very safe to say that the entire period of my high school life was basically just I know nothing. That was essentially my noob phase. I knew nothing. I was just clawing around in the dark, making all these drawings just for myself. Around the time when I got into DeviantArt and Tumblr, that's when I really wanted to be there for other people, and then I started really thinking about comics and what I really wanted to draw. When I started Patreon, that's when I felt like I was learning more as I went along. 2017, I started off finding more time for symbolic pieces, because that's in my very core. I feel like I'm supposed to be a story artist. I always think of art and story as equally important, which is why I don't consider myself as an illustrator or a designer, or I aim to be more of a story artist, if that makes any sense. The entire year of 2017 was filled with so many good pieces from Patreon. Still a lot of kinks, of course, and Patreon also included chibi commissions, so I made a lot of those and I loved it. One of the biggest projects that came from Patreon was Atlas Chapter 1, which is sort of a continuation of Horns, my other comic, but I ultimately decided to stop that as well, because I felt like I didn't know enough to really put out the vision of my comic yet. So I'm putting it off until I feel like I have the right skills for it. And then there was the American Gods chibi project, I guess, because I think Hannibal had recently been cancelled, and I heard that Brian Fuller created this new show based on the work of Neil Gaiman. So naturally, I watched it. I loved it. I made these little chibi drawings of the characters from American Gods season 1, along with the quotes on the side, and I really liked making that little project. And then fast forward a little to Inktober 2017. This time, I took inspiration from, I forgot the name of the artist, but I wanted to do the Inktober challenge with more scary stuff, because I really do like drawing scary stuff. I combined my own personal list of, I don't know if that's showing in the camera, but it's really, the sun is just going that way. Mental illnesses and disorders combined with, ink, and yeah, I had a really fun experience with that. Not to downgrade on the illnesses and disorders themselves, it was a very learning experience. 2018. Okay. But it was around the end of 2017, around December, when a huge milestone from Patreon was achieved, and I got to save up for my very first tablet, which is somewhere over there actually. Because of that tablet, I was able to really focus more on improving my style. So I made this Doctor Who fan art, which based on the season finale with the 12 Doctors passing, and I loved it. I really loved working with a tablet. It was tiny, but it meant a lot to be able to work on a tablet for once and to explore new avenues of new tools, new toys, basically. That carried over onto 2018 with exploring digital painting. Being able to touch on the details that I never could before is really exciting. It's safe to say I improved a little bit more with the realism, studying facial anatomy and having lots of inspiration from Hannibal himself really helped in that avenue. One of my favorite pieces I've ever done was for this 3-piece set of Will Graham from Hannibal. It's titled Adapt, Evolve, Become. And another was based on my Mermaid AU. Another was based on my Book of Life AU. Of course, I still have my usual, because of Patreon as well, I was able to go and travel to the closest theater from my town, which was a 2-hour bus ride away. And I got to watch Black Panther. I remember specifically this piece titled Assemble that I made around May 2018. I haven't watched Infinity War yet, but I've seen so many trailers. Wanted to make something based off of my own theories. You could imagine my surprise when I realized how the color coding actually affected them, coincided with. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think you know what I'm trying to say, but basically, Infinity Stones, colors, you get it. Oh, and May 2018 was also the date when I first began my new original comic called Heads and Tails, which is also on Webtoons. Lots of commissions, lots of TV commissions. I did my first Q&A while drawing fan art for Detroit Become Human, more Book of Life AU. I also expanded on another AU I made around May, which is the Hades and Persephone AU for Hannibal. I know you sense the pattern, I'm sorry, but Hannibal really gave me a lot of inspiration. Also, I made fan art for Outlast, which I've wanted to do for so long. I've always imagined Raylan as partly Asian, then Miles as a grumpy looking black haired guy, and then Blake was the nerdy loyal guy, and then of course everybody wants to draw Eddie. One thing I hope I'm able to do this year is to draw the other antagonists, other bosses from Outlast. I did this little short comic of Venom that got a lot of reaction on Instagram. 2018 ended very, very quietly, if I do say so myself, but I got to draw almost exactly what I wanted to draw in that month. Because the feature in my Patreon was called Fan Art Poll, where I put in all the things I wanted to draw, and then patrons will decide what I want and what they want to draw, what they want me to draw the most. And lastly, 2019. Is it weird that it almost feels like a blur? So it was somewhere in 2018, my laptop of 5 years finally died, and I had to get this new one. Lots of changes happened during 2019. I had my job as a teacher, as an elementary teacher. It was great, but could only last for a year. It was a bit taxing because the school was outside my city, but it basically made me only able to draw during the weekends or during free times when I don't pass out to sleep. Regardless, I still feel like I've been able to do what I wanted to do around 2019. The only problem was I wanted to focus more on comics around the middle of the month, around April. I did do a lot of things I wanted to do. Fan art for Into the Spider-Verse. I really, really loved doing that. I made the cover for Murgo, even though a part of me really wants to draw it again. I made this simple piece called Jane Wallow. The Wolfman, yeah, I remember that. The Wolfman piece was made based on a Hannibal fanfiction I found. Completely forgotten the title already, but I love making art based on stories. I love the story, so I felt like I had to make art. Ooh, I don't know if it was worth mentioning, but of course every month I still made lots of chibis. It was one of the rewards in my Patreon, so I always made chibis. Around July, I entered the Suicide Sheep Challenge, and I drew this monstrosity titled Monster. August, my mom had to be hospitalized, so I didn't really manage to do much. Around September, I drew myself. For some reason, I wanted to revamp my look on the internet, so there you go. But I keep settling for this little chibi version of me anyway, so whatever. An amazing patron sent me lots of Hannibal gifts. October, nothing happened except focusing on comics. So I basically just focused for 3 months at least on the comics that I was making while trying to balance work. I had to resign my job from teaching and switched over to a new job around October. November 2019, I made Doctor Who fan art. I redrew the very first fan art that I made with my tablet, which I'm very proud of. And then last December, I made some few sketches, these warm-up sketches of Hannibal and Will, because I, honest to God, have not drawn them for almost an entire month. Then I'm currently working on a new piece for the Book of Life AU, and here we are. Transition. It is now February 2020. Basically, it took me an entire month to edit that one video. But yeah, That was basically it. An entire decade's worth of art. Did I improve? Did I not? By the way, I realized as I was editing that I was slowly getting tired, and the entire recording was more than about an hour or so. That was probably the reason why I became more and more tired. But here's to hoping that this year or this decade will be as productive as the last one. Update on my mom if you're interested. Her left side is still pretty much still healing. Here's to hoping that it'll get better as time goes on. Also, there's some changes in my window. I don't know if it's gonna show, but ta-da, ta-da. I don't know if it's showing, but yeah. I don't often promote myself, but maybe I should start doing that as well. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at bb_artonzi, and on Tumblr, DeviantArt, and Patreon as BioBio. Thank you so much for watching this entire video if you did. I don't know what else to say, but okay, take care. Have a nice 2020. Goodbye.